Bonjour, je m'appelle Niklas Horn. Je suis designer de communication, j'habite à Karlsruhe et je viens de terminer mes études. Dans les prochaines minutes, je vais tenter de répondre à ma manière à la question posée dans l'exercice d'admission. What sort of relations between arts and politics for a planet 4 degrees Celsius warmer, or maybe 6 degrees, or maybe not, in 2050? Since the question is formulated in English, I'm going to switch language now. Let's have a look at the first topics, arts and politics. They seem to differ at first sight, even though the question implies that they have some sort of relation. But what are they? Good and evil? Black and white? One thing is for sure, they are somehow linked, they have always been. Who was there first? Hard to say if you look at it from a very wide angle. Everything can be art, so is everything can come down to politics. Even in the animal kingdom, a lion defending its territory is making politics. A bird building a nest, well, that's art. The first noticeable relation between them can be found at the very heart of what we call the beginning of human civilization. The first written signs and letters that could establish a relation between past and future generations and carry on the knowledge, help trace dynasties. With the upcoming of ancient cultures, begin the use of art for political purposes. Monumental architecture would underline the power of the sovereign. Statues would be built in his honor. His story would be told on tapestries and sung by poets. Today, we would call it propaganda, and it has been going on for thousands of years. In our Western culture, the Catholic Church, one of the greatest political powers of all times, built its church houses all over Europe and let the greatest artists of the time decorate them. The story of the Bible, that should remind the common folk to be grateful for the little they had and obey the so-called divine power, was interpreted in every possible medium: paintings, songs, orchestrations, theater plays, books, and so on. From a very idealistic point of view, one might say that art should be free. Truth is, it hasn't been for most of the time over the past centuries. And what are politics? One nation fighting or negotiating with another? One despot slaughtering his own people? Defending the interests of the crowds? One thing is for sure, they have been linked to one another over the times, and they will be linked in the future. I'd even go further and state that their relation can be described as a married couple's relation. They are one, they fight and they reconcile. Once they are attacked by a third party, they would stand up together. In Russia, where marriage is still very traditional, they say that in a relationship, the husband is the head. He is on top, he's the logical one, he makes the decisions. We could say that he's in charge of the politics. The woman is the neck. She's the emphatic one, the emotional one. She would decide and influence where the head has to turn, and so we will call her the arts. This couple, like every couple, will fight from time to time and reconcile. One would always try to step out of the shadow of the other. Sometimes they would stand united. One thing they have in common: they are always expected by us, the people, to take position. They will do so in three possible combinations: united with the same declaration, or in one case the politics might stand in front, in the other the arts will stand up to the politics. Well, love is an art, as they say, but love is politics as well. I want to tell you a little story about a fight that has taken place inside of me. As a child, I grew up in France, but I'm German and I spent the last years in Germany. At every World Cup, I only have one fear: that Germany and France would fight in the final. And that's not because I have two souls inside of me, it's because I have one soul and one mind. My soul is my artistic tendency, it's my nostalgia, it's my emotional guide, and that's what France is for me. And then there's my mind, the logical one, the deducting one. the calculating one. And this is what Germany stands for. What would happen now if the two nations were to stand against each other in a World Cup final? I wouldn't know which side to choose. Just imagine, a game of football between your head and your heart. Who would win? Let's get back to arts and politics. Let's say for now that they are not two people, but that they are a mind and a soul, that they are indeed one. But that humans, in their effort to give a name to everything, have one day decided to tell them apart. Let's theorize that this distinction is artificial. Let's think of humankind not as many individuals, but as an ant colony where the common effort only comes to an end. The colony itself is the organism, not the single ant. In this organism, arts and politics are linked very closely, as everything else is. They influence each other so much that it becomes impossible to tell them apart, just like mind and soul. And now there's a disease affecting this organism. We will call it climate change. Let's say you're suspected to have the disease. You have been smoking and drinking all of your past life, and chances are pretty good that you might have one. So you go and see a doctor. He tells you that you definitely have it, and there's nothing you can do. You go and see another doctor, of course. This one will run a series of tests on you for days, just to tell you that you might have a disease. You see a third doctor. This one smokes and drinks as well, and he tells you to just go on, that there's nothing wrong with you and that everything is in order. During all this time you went to see these doctors, a struggle has been going on inside of you. You don't know what to believe. One day you will be willing to change your habits because you believe it's going to do some good. The next day you couldn't care less. That's because you don't know for sure what is wrong with you, and if there's something wrong, and if there is, what would be the best thing to do. But of course, everybody around you expects you to take a decision. I don't know for sure what the relations between art and politics will be in 2050. Climate changes, yes or no? I've been hearing about the greenhouse effect since I was a little child. It seems to have become more of a political issue over the past years, yes. But what is it in the end? It's a disease that affects all of us, and we're helpless since we have no experience in recognizing it, not to mention treating it. What we witness now is the fight between arts and politics, none of them sure which side to take. Temperatures might go up or not. The crisis between the head and the soul takes place now. And after this crisis, the next one will come, and they might have a very different set of problems to deal with in the next 40 years.